God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Today we hear the gospel of Christ healing a man who was possessed with a group of demons, as we hear their legion. And we hear how Christ sent out the demons into this herd of swine, who likewise fall over a cliff and die. And the townspeople hear of the news from the herds people, and they come and confront Christ. And both in this instance, they tell Christ, "We don't want you here, to go away." And the man who is healed, who is now in his right mind, clothed in his right mind, he is now his true self, he's been healed. He requests of Christ that he could be a disciple, could be a follower like the disciples, that he was chosen by Christ to come with him and learn his teachings. But Christ said, "No, you need to go where you're from and tell of the good things that God has done for you." So in both instances, both the man who had this miracle happen to him, and for those people in the surrounding area that heard of this miracle, both responded to Christ as if it was, they did not get what they wanted. They did not give Christ on his own terms, on their terms. Christ was a little bit inconvenient for them. We do have an inconvenient Christ. And that's the story today, brothers and sisters. How do we react to the experience of God? When we come into the church doors, we fully expect to have an experience of God. We truly expect to encounter Christ in our lives. In fact, we want to. I would hope all of us would want to. When we come to the church doors, we want to experience and encounter Christ in our lives, on our terms. Sometimes Christ doesn't meet us on our terms. Sometimes he gives us an answer to our request that we don't like. In this case, for the man that he had healed and worked a marvelous wonder, he says, "No, you go to where you're from. Tell what I did, but you cannot be a disciple in this manner, in this way that you're requesting." God knows why. Even he's smarter than I. And then the townspeople encountered Christ, and they heard of a miracle, and instead of rejoicing probably from this possessed man that is probably tormented everyone in the area, they sent him away because they had now economically had a huge loss on their hands. They no longer can sell and buy swine, which is against the covenant law. So this is now an inconvenience for the people. They were sinning. And somehow in Christ's great providence, he was able to heal this man and take this passion and sinful industry away from people of the town. Of course, they didn't want that. They didn't want that sinfulness to be gone. So they asked Christ to leave. And so in our lives, when we leave church, after having hopefully a small experience, a small encounter with Christ in his church, does Christ become inconvenient for us? Outside the walls. Outside the walls of the church, is he inconvenient? When I was working as a chaplain for the Air Force, as military people often are, they're not the most subtle people. Sometimes a lot of them don't speak with the most clean language. They're just stay with their mind. They're men oftentimes, though there's women in there. And so when a chaplain comes into their presence, they kind of are uncomfortable. They kind of look over their shoulder. They try to change how they speak. And I ask them, why just be yourself? There's no reason to change if the chaplain comes by. "Oh, no, but you make us, you remind us that we should be better people." And it's just the presence of a chaplain or a cross. They may not be believers. They may not be devout people, but when someone comes in who's a clergyman, a priest, a chaplain, they change their actions a little bit. People who I've encountered here in this area, and I have with our family, and we do things outside the church, and they find out I'm a priest, they kind of change a little bit. They're put on guard a little bit, like they want to correct how they are talking with me. They want to be a little bit better. And I always tell people, just relax, be calm. I'm not judging. outside the walls of the church, I'm always a priest, but I'm not there to pastor you at all times. And so, what does it mean? It means that there's an encounter, that outside these walls, we forget that Christ is in our midst at all times. That we should be living as if he was wholly present before us. But we don't do that, do we, brothers and sisters? We often fall prey to our passions, to our sinful inclinations, to those habits that we wish we didn't have and that we work on, but we just let them take over in our lives. And we forget that Christ is there amongst us, in our presence. He's kind of inconvenient when you think about it. This is why I say today we have an inconvenient Christ. Because we want to kind of just live the way we are. We just want to go about our day being what we are and not really having to worry about changing who we are. We don't want to be disappointed by God telling us that, yeah, you really should not be doing this. This behavior is not appropriate. This is why. You want to be a better person. You want to be closer to Christ. You shouldn't be doing that. And so, in many ways, he's inconvenient. He's inconvenient when we're amongst our friends, when we're out being just relaxed, I would say, casual. Are we thinking about God? Are we thinking about how he really wants us to live our lives? And often, at least in my life, it's not true. I do sometimes relax. I'm at calm, and I am not the person who I want to be all the time. Perhaps you guys can feel the same way about yourselves. I'm not thinking at all times that I have to be the person that God calls me to be. And it's kind of inconvenient at times to do the things that the church asks us to do. Fasting, prayer, living a life of purity. These things are not convenient for us. They're difficult. They go against our fallen nature. So Christ is inconvenient when he comes in our presence. When he's in our presence, we change who we are. Just like when I was a chaplain, when I come amongst the people, they would change. They would stop and think about what they're doing at that moment. And so we at all times, brothers and sisters, have to remember that Christ is in our presence. And I know that the church teaching and the gospel at times is inconvenient for our lives. It's not easy to put it into our lives, especially in a culture that is very anti-God, anti-Christ. It's what it is up there. It's anti-Christ. They don't believe in Christ. So it's very hard. But we have to fight that. We have to fight that to know that we have to be who God calls us to be, so that we can be clothed in our right minds, like happened with the man today. And even if we don't always get the answer we want from God, like the man today, it's okay as long as we fulfill the commandments of God. Live a life of prayer. Live a life of fasting. Live a life according to the church calendar, according to the church teachings. Then we know that due to those inconveniences, that we have a blessing coming our way in the next life. You know, we always have to be thinking that there's that old Protestant thing that said, what would Jesus do? Those little bracelets that the kids used to wear. And it seemed kind of corny, but it's very true. It's very true. We should always be thinking, what would Jesus do? But we have to know what Jesus teaches. And we have to know what he wants from us. And sometimes it's not easy. But we should always think about ourselves and our lives. And especially when we have difficulty in our lives, what would Jesus do? What would he want me to do? So brothers and sisters, today, let's celebrate our inconvenient Christ. It's not easy to be a Christian. It's not easy to live our lives in this world that is anti-Christ. But it's okay if we push through and do what we know what we were supposed to do. We're all educated, right? We all sit through these church services and hear the gospel year after year, and it's the same ones that God teaches us, and we know it in our heart. Do not forget it. When we leave the church walls, do not forget those teachings. Let them always be at the fore of our minds, and let them put it into practice in our lives. In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.